Hey everyone, it's Carissa. Welcome to Satur-YAY, where we're celebrating the weekend by getting our craft on. This week over on the Classroom blog, we have been playing with this Cosmo Cricut WIP art deck. That WIP stands for Work in Progress, which is all of our lives, right? And I'm going to be playing with some Daniel Smith watercolors as well. Now, this art deck or this art book here has these foiled images, and there's also some like embossed images. Those you can't see until you put the watercolor on top. Now that foil acts to kind of hold the watercolor into those areas, and then the clear embossing that you can't really see shows up when you put the watercolor over the top of it. Now this one has some, I think, Italian words. I'm not real sure, but the translation's there at the bottom. And I'm going to show you kind of how this works. Now this works the same as kind of like an emboss resist technique, so kind of keep that in mind. And if you've never seen an emboss resist, it's where you add, something over the top of embossing and it doesn't stick to the embossing. So you'll kind of see more as I go on. Now, I wanted to play with my Daniel Smith watercolors. Daniel Smith watercolors are an artist grade watercolor. They come in these little tubes. You may not be familiar with watercolors that come in tubes, so I'm going to kind of walk you through this. They come in two sizes. There's a 5 milliliter size and a 15 milliliter size. Now, for those of you who are not a nurse like me and who live in the United States, and we don't use milliliters that often, 5 milliliters is the equivalent of 1 teaspoon. 15 mLs would be then 3 teaspoons, and I believe that converts to a tablespoon. But I wanted to show you, even these little 5 milliliters, I have squeezed them into this palette just a little bit there, and I've allowed them to dry. And so this palette is then always ready for me to use. Now I've also created like a little map of all my colors so I know what color is where, and so that if I need to reference it later on, I know. And also some of these can be a little deceiving. The color of the liquid or I don't know what it's called. Is it a paste? It's not really a paste. But the color of that dried watercolor medium in the palette can look a little deceiving. So I've created myself a little map here that I can use and refer to the colors. Now today I wanted to try to do a little shimmery watercolor. This is the Daniel Smith Pearlescent Shimmer. Now I'm going to squeeze a little bit of this out and you're going to see it kind of has a pearly color. And this you can actually mix into your watercolors. They don't have to be Daniel Smith watercolors. You can mix these into any watercolors to create a pearlescent shimmer. Now I'm going to start mixing some colors here and I'm going to start playing with it because I haven't actually played with the pearlescent shimmer before, but I didn't want to muddy up any of my colors. So I just cleaned up my palette there with a baby wipe and just kind of wiped that away so that I'd have a nice clean surface. Now the way that you want to use these is you never want to use the watercolor, that dried color, directly because that is going to be too intense and it's going to be a waste of your watercolor, quite frankly. So you're seeing me mix up a little bit of this color here. I've added some water to my palette, and then I've grabbed a little bit of the pigment from the color. This is the phthalo blue. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's like PTA, I don't know, it's spelled really weird. Anyway, I'll link it in the description below. But I've mixed that onto my palette there, and now I'm grabbing a little bit of the shimmer, that pearlescent shimmer, and I mix that in. Now I put a little bit of water onto my watercolor cardstock here, and then I'm just dropping in the color. And you can see I'm left with this beautiful blue color, and it has this really cool shimmer to it. I decided to try to turn on my cell phone light to show you this, but I just don't think a video can capture the beauty of the shimmer that you get. Now, I have watercolored with my Wink of Stella or my Spectrum Noir clear glitter brush markers before, but I am not sure that I would want to dip either one of those brushes into these artist quality watercolors. So that's where that pearlescent shimmer tube comes in. So now I've gone ahead, and now that I'm kind of comfortable with how my results are going to be, I've mixed up a little color with the pearlescent shimmer in it, and this time I'm using the Amazonite Genuine, Amazonite, I don't know, it's spelled like Amazon, which I'm really familiar with, Prime shipping. and then the word, and then ITE on the end. So whatever you want to call that, and then genuine. So this is a beautiful kind of like tealy blue color. And when you add that shimmer to it, it's really beautiful. Now you saw me swipe that watercolor over the top of this piece here. This is from the art deck or the art book from Cosmo Cricut. And then that embossed area in the center, that U, so it says fabulous, kind of shows up when you put the color over the top. So if you've ever seen the emboss resist technique, this is exactly like that. Now I decided to go ahead and intensify that color, so I added a little bit over the top of it. And also, you saw me with a paper towel there. If you get some that's really sitting on top of that foil or on top of the embossed area, you can kind of just soak it up with the corner of a little piece of paper towel to kind of prevent that from drying too heavy over the embossing or the foil. Now, you will be able to kind of buff off the foil later on and kind of clean it up, and you'll see me do that with a piece later on. But if it's too thick, you may want to kind of sop it up first. So for this, also, I love you little card here, I am using the quinacridone magenta, the Amazonite genuine, or Amazonite, I don't know. I like Amazon because I like Amazon, so you say it however you want, okay? And I'm also using the new Gamboge, and I've mixed all of those with the pearlescent shimmer, and I've just kind of alternated the colors. And then I switched over. I was using a number 8 round brush to color in those letters, and that foil kind of keeps all that color on the inside. And then I've switched over to a number 2 round just to kind of paint freehand a few little hearts over in the corner there. Now, for that one at the top, that fabulous, I used a 3/4 inch flat brush for that. So just wanted to mention that. And I'll be sure to link these brushes that I use below as well, because I am no professional artist, but these brushes just feel really good in my hands, and they are a nicer quality brush. Now, I have to admit, when I saw this little card here, I thought it was a leaf. But then after I had already painted it like kind of a golden orangey yellow color, I realized that it might be a feather. So I am painting it like a leaf because I'm going to kind of make a fall-based card. I've mixed a little bit of the new Gamboge with the Pearlescent orange to create my base color. And then I'm dropping in a little bit of the permanent alizarin crimson to add just a little bit of white, or not white, a little bit of red into this leaf and kind of give it that variation of color. So once again, going back to the Amazon color, I'm just going to call it the Amazon color from now on. We don't need to add that "ite" on the end, right? So I'm going to go back to that Amazon color here. And I am starting out with a really watered down version of this color. And I'm going to swipe it across the first word on this little card here. And it says Vinny. Vinny. I know him. No, I'm just kidding. I think this is Italian or Latin or something. I don't know. I speak Spanish. I don't speak other languages. They're all kind of closely related. But anyway, I'm going to guess that it says venne and then vendi. So it's like I came, I saw, I love, I loved. The translation's at the bottom of this card, so it's in that foil there. So for the second swipe, I intensified the color by adding a little bit more pigment into the color that I had already mixed up on my palette. And then for the third swipe here that says, I don't know, what does it say? Amave, I don't know. Maybe some of you can tell me how to say this because I'm sure I'm butchering it. But I mixed even more color into that. So I kind of have this ombre or gradient effect where I have the lightest on top, medium in the middle, and then the darkest on the bottom. Now I'm using the flat edge of that to kind of fake some brush strokes at the end. You see those little kind of like areas where it looks like a brush stroke. I faked that, and you can totally fake it. Nobody's ever going to know. And here I am just taking a paper towel and buffing off some of those embossed areas that had a little bit of the color dry on top. And you can just buff it off with a paper towel. It may need to be teensy bit damp, but be careful when you're using a damp paper towel because you can remove some of the color from the watercolored areas that you've done as well. So just be very careful. Now for these, I'm going to turn them into cards, and it's going to be super easy. I am just using a little bit of the Heidi Swapp gold lame shimmer spritz here, so it's kind of a gold color. It looks like gold lame when you read it, but it's not. It's gold lame, so just keep that in mind. And I've just splattered them all over some Essentials by Ellen linen cardstock. When I'm keeping a card super simple, I love to use this linen cardstock because it adds just a little bit of texture. So I've allowed those to dry. I'm putting a little die cut circle of vellum here. This is just going to kind of ground my sentiment piece that I've created. I've allowed it to hang over the edge, so I'm just trimming off the excess. And then I'm putting on that watercolored sentiment that says fabulous, and I attach just a little bit of black and white striped pattern paper under that. And that creates my card front. I am finishing both of these off. This says bold, brave, bold, beautiful. These are both exactly the same. I finished them off with some sparkling clear sequins from Pretty Pink Posh, and then I'll just plop those on to a linen card base as well. Now for this leaf, we know that it's actually probably a feather, but Carissa made it a leaf, and that's okay. I used the Brushstroke Love die from the Essentials by Ellen line to cut that word love out of some gold glitter cardstock. And now I'm using this Essentials by Ellen stamp set. This stamp says, I love you more, but I just wanted to use the you more. So all I did was partially ink up that stamp. And I've stamped it onto some Essentials by Ellen vellum with some Versamark ink. And you can see I did actually ink the bottom part of that L from love, but all I wanted was the you more. So all I did was take a clean, dry paintbrush and wipe away that embossing powder before I heat set it, and then I got the perfect sentiment. So I'm going to attach this watercolored piece onto a craft wood grain card base. It's cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2. This just adds a little bit of interest to a really simple card. I've added a little bit of foam adhesive onto the back of that love die cut there, and I've attached that vellum strip to it with a little two-way glue pen, zig two-way glue pen there along the bottom, and I'm just going to attach that. Now on the left side of that love, I did have to put a double layer of foam adhesive because my leaf is on some foam adhesive, so in order to keep that all flat, I had to put a double layer of foam adhesive on the left side of the love where it hangs off of that watercolored piece. And I'm finishing this off with some gold sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. Now our final card, super easy. This is about 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, this piece that was already pre-cut. All I'm going to do is take a 4 1/4 inch card base and add this watercolored panel to the front of it. And I'm using some ATG tape runner adhesive here. I did have to trim off just a teensy tiny bit, but it all worked out. And then I just added just a few sparkling clear sequins up in the top corner just for a little bit more sparkle. Now keep in mind that watercolor has some sparkle to it too because we added that pearlescent shimmer to it. So there you have it, a look at the Cosmo Cricut art deck. This is just a really fun way to kind of get out your watercolors and explore. And these little pieces, once you're done, make some really great cards. They're just some elements that you can add to some really simple cards. These are something that you could really create just really within just a few short minutes. And I have to admit, the hardest part about these projects was waiting for the paint to dry. Now, I've heard if you allow your watercolors to air dry that your results are much better. So I was a good girl and I was patient and I allowed these pieces to air dry. And I do have to admit that I have some really beautiful results for the watercolor. It does not take an artist to do this. I am in no way a professional artist, but I had a great time playing with this. As always, I will have links to all the products used in these projects over at the Classroom blog, and I'll be sure to link that below. Head on over there because you can see more still shots and find more information. And I will link the featured products in the description at YouTube. All of these products are available for purchase at ellenhudson.com. Thanks for stopping by. Happy Satur-YAY, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.